Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Let's start with the analysis video for 9th of October. So yesterday as we saw कि Israeli and Hamas के बीच में again there is a war which is begin and Hamas has attacked Israel. So Israeli airstrikes, even they pound the Gaza as death toll climbs. So as far as the updates is concerned, we are seeing USA and UK have come to the support of Israel when we talk about the aid in terms of providing arms and ammunitions. And even India has supported Israel in this thing because this is very clear we are against any kind of the terrorist activities. So with this support of US and UK to the Israel, we are seeing definitely this is going to be more brutal. It is going to be more violent and this is going to lead to much more destruction. So we do not expect it is going to end sooner or later. But after that also, once again things they would be reaching to a saturation point, they would be reaching a plateau or peak, and even then it is not a surety ki after all of this we are going to have a reliable solution for the Israel-Palestine issue. So yesterday also we took up this topic and discussed about kya solution ho sakta hai to this problem. So firstly, instead of US, UK or be it any other country supporting Israel in terms of further fueling this war, they need to ensure from the very beginning कि कैसे चीजों को solve out कर सकते हैं in a peaceful method, because after a point of time these things would be visible. So why not in the very beginning? And definitely we have the platform of United Nations wherein the rising global powers, they can take the lead, they can play the leadership role in terms of bringing all the relevant stakeholders to this issue on the same platform and ensure things are resolved in a reliable manner. So again, horrific incidents being reported from Manipur. A video of tribal man's body being burned surfaces from Manipur. So yet another horrific video emerging from Manipur. Definitely, this is like so gross. And police official said कि जो video circulate हो रही है social media पे, this is from early May and that they were investigating the case also. So police का यही stand रहता है and most often ये चीजें repeat की जा रही है कि जो video अब circulation में आ रही है they are older incidents, but जो पहले भी ये incidents हुए हैं क्या required action liya gaya hai ya nahi liya gaya hai? And as far as the current situation in Manipur is also concerned, that is not stable. Again, we are not seeing right now proper law and order in the state. We all see ki beach mein incidents of violence, they keep emerging and keep erupting. So 7-second video marked as the cookie, it was shared on several WhatsApp groups and it shows a man in a black t-shirt and camouflage trousers lying in a trench. So herein जो main issue है, that is gang between the majority community of the Manipur, that is the Meitei, which reside in the valley region, and the tribals which reside in the hilly regions of the state. So of late, jo immediate reason tha behind this ethnic violence in the Manipur, that was the High Court, it issued कि जो majority community है, that is Meitei community, they would be or they should be given the scheduled tribe status. So this basically offended the tribal community. And as far as again the implementation of the ASFA Act is also concerned, so यहाँ पे even tribals have shared their concerns and they're protesting कि why only this act is implemented in the tribal regions, why not in the valley region where the majority community also resides. So these are some of the other concerns which are there. And again, role of social media or how even rumors or misinformation has been circulated, so even that has also played an important role in terms of fueling this violence, fueling the situation in the state of Manipur. So, taking in detail this Israel Palestine issue and understanding it from the geostrategic lens, we see Tufan al Aqsa jolts the West Asian geostrategic architecture. So there are uncanny similarities when you talk about the Hamas operation Tufan al-Aqsa and the launch of the 19-day Yom Kippur War 50 years ago. So we are seeing some kind of similarities between these two incidents. And although the later it was inconclusive, it led to a regional tectonic shift, with Israel accepting a land for peace formula at the Camp David Accord 6 years later after this 19-day Yom Kippur War, which was held 15 years ago. So, with this jerky role of the regional geostrategic kaleidoscope, can a similar outcome follow this time also or not? So, even as the ground situation that is right now, it is evolving, which broad and but inherently tentative surmises they can be made. So, what are those? We're going to understand that. So, key takeaways can be from a military perspective, despite Joe fighting. It's an ongoing fighting regarding the territory on the territory of Israel. It is not under an existential threat. So outcome is also not in doubt. So outcome is Israel is expected to prevail and push back Hamas, which lacks the resources to sustain the campaign. And apart from this, we are seeing other Western powers coming in support of Israel. So it would be becoming difficult for Hamas to sustain. So this is one thing. Massive ground incursion into the Gaza Strip, it could follow to exact the vengeance, restore the morale, and reimpose the strategic asymmetry, and try to even rescue the captured soldiers and the civilians. So these can be some of the possible and most expected fallouts out of this war. So this is a kind of, we know key the technology that Israel has in terms of the high-tech missile defense technology and the artificial intelligence that would compel Israel to revise its strategic doctrines further. The shock and the awe of the Hamas Blitzkrieg portrayed in this war images have created new but lasting social media icons. Depending upon the end game of this conflict, it could potentially revive the military option and further boost standing of the non-state Arab militias like Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, Al-Houthis, Islamic State, various avatars of Al-Qaeda and Al-Shabaab. So because of this thing further, we can say unwinding, so it could lead to more non-state Arab militias rising in different parts. Then we see कि although conflict hai, it could protract, but it could remain geographically confined at the same time as Hamas and the Islamic Jihad. Both these are Gaza-based Sunni outfits, and they have few all-weather friends. So that is why it can remain geographically restricted, because we are not seeing so many supporters or much supporters of Hamas or these different Arab militia bodies. So in the domestic arena, Palestinian Authority, it is vertically split between the West Bank, which is run by Al-Fatah in a modus vivendi with Israeli occupation authorities, and Gaza Strip jo hai, that is administered by Hamas, which refuses to recognize Israel. So that's how even so the Palestinian Authority is also vertically divided. So herein you need to be clear with exact locations. West Bank kahan located hai, Gaza Strip kahan located hai. So that's there. And regionally too, the granular picture, it is largely non-supportive of Hamas at the same time. So Hamas jo support enjoy karte hai of external parties, that is very limited. So it is very difficult to even for Hamas to overpower Israel. So only Arab neighbor of Gaza jo hai, that is Egypt country. So whose pro-West military regime has little love lost for the Gazan rulers, as they were allies of the Muslim Brotherhood that Egyptian generals overthrew in 2013. So Cairo, Egypt, nevertheless, it is trying to de-escalate the current situation. So that is the current role of Egypt in this conflict. And all the other Gulf monarchies except Qatar, they strongly disapprove of Hamas, calling it a political Islamic outfit. So except Qatar, so we can say that Qatar is in support of Hamas. And although Qatar regularly provides generous dollops of humanitarian assistance to the Gazans. It does not wish to annoy Washington at the same time. So basically, Qatar is trying to balance between its interest, between again its support for the Gazans, for the Hamas, and the US. Then we have Turkey. So Turkey, it's a big regional Sunni power. Traditionally, it supports Hamas, but Ankara's badly bruised economy, it has limited its outreach at the same time. So Turkey ke liye again kuch domestic challenges hai, so it is fighting those challenges. But again, traditionally, even Turkey has supported Hamas. So moreover, even Turkey is trying to reconnect with Israel and the Gulf monarchies. So even that, definitely Turkey would be going into and looking into key if it goes openly it supports Hamas, then again possible क्या fallouts हो सकते हैं for the Turkey's interest. So the current crisis effectively presents Israel's current 10-month-old ultra-nationalist government with a double or quits option. Even before Tufan al-Aqsa, we saw that Jerusalem's hard line has led to a surge in violence with over 200 Palestinians and 30 Israelis dead this year. So given the Israeli traditional policy on such matters coupled with the current adrenal high ambience, the line is likely to get harder. Crises are also likely to corral the national unity at the same time. So profound consequences for the regional geopolitics. It could include a delay in the rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Israel, as Tel Aviv it would be unwilling to grant the concessions to the Palestinians sought by Saudi Arabia. Then apart from this, Abraham Accords signatories, they would hope that their wager on the economic gains riding the roughshod over the regional politics would stand, and Iran could feel emboldened by the arch enemy being in mortal combat. So India, it is not directly affected by this current event, but it would nevertheless feel some heat. So protracted regional turbulence show hai, it could cause collateral damage through oil price rises, impact the Indian diaspora, which is located in this region, and dim the prospects for India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor, jo abhi G20 ke baad as a major announcement, and this was one of the major outcomes of it. And apart from this, I2U2 constructs could also get impacted because of this volatile situation, unstable situation in Israel. And so basically, crude oil prices or increase ho sakte hai. So that is going to be one of the major concerns for India. Then definitely interest and safety of Indian diaspora, which is located, and the West Asian Economic Corridor would be impacted. The progress round it would be impacted. I2U2 would also be impacted. Their functioning and the interest, and definitely the constructive areas of developments would be impacted. So it can also highlight India as a safe, fast-growing economy for the foreign investments, largely insulated from the turmoil. So at the same time, again, India ka as a case for more and as a reliable alternative for foreign investors would be more strengthened. So this can be one of the positives, but there are more negatives overpowering the positive fallouts of this war for India. So again, we are having this data about the Israel. So you can see exact location of Israel, and to be specific, again, you can open your own maps and locate. This is the Gaza Strip and this is the West Bank. Here we have the Jerusalem, which is the capital of Israel, and this has been recognized by US at the same time. Apart from this, now you need to also locate the Sea of Galilee, which is over here, the Golan Heights. So that is there. Jordan is the only landlocked country in this region. And then you also need to identify that Israel shares land borders with which all other countries. What caused floods in Sikkim? So although this is a repeated topic, so glacial lake outburst phenomena, we have discussed the possible solutions that need to be again focused upon what triggered the Sikkim glacial lake outburst phenomenon even. So there is right now, we can't be 100% sure ki what actually led to this disaster. But as far as the satellite images they are concerned from the National Remote Sensing Center, ISRO, they suggest ki about 105 hectares of the glacier-fed lake that had been drained out. So it's very clear that it was a glacial lake outburst phenomenon and even in a disaster. which happened at the night of 4th of October when it shrunk to 62 hectares. Apart from this, National Disaster Management Agency, it reports that the primary reason for the sudden surge, it appears to be a likely combination of excess rainfall and this glacial lake outburst phenomenon. And then how do you go ahead with the planned and scientific development even that has not been adhered to? We know that the hydel power project which is being constructed, definitely their role become important in terms of which location is chosen for construction of these dams. So are such events likely in future or not? So definitely the answer is yes. Their intensity and frequency is expected to rise because of climate change, because of global warming, because of the increased pace at which the Himalayan glaciers they are melting. So we expect more such lakes to form specifically in the hilly areas, and also, at the same time, with increased incidences of cloudburst, at the same time, the risk increases. So the Himalayan ecosystem, it is more vulnerable and fragile in the world. And with this also, there is again risk associated with the possibility of earthquakes as well. So because the North Indian region lies in the higher seismic zone, so definitely there is certain risk associated with earthquake also. So even earthquake, it can lead to such glacial lake outburst phenomena at the same time. So risk is high and definitely is going to increase in future. So it becomes important, how are we well prepared in order to deal, in order to mitigate, what is the preparedness level to prevent such types of incidents in future. So first of all would be using the satellite data, the GIS data, for identification of such lakes and monitoring the water levels, and water management becomes important. Then going ahead with the scientific and planned construction activities, now be it the human habitations or be it from the perspective of tourism or be it from the perspective of construction of different hydro projects, the hydroelectric power projects and the dams, and even the management of the water, the reservoirs of the dams, that is also important at the same time in order to even deal with an unforeseen event in the form of cloudburst at the same time. So GST Council, it has cleared few measures so as to boost our foreign trade. So right now we are seeing that even our trade sector is facing certain challenges because of this global economic slowdown, and this has led to decrease in the global demand. So because of that, we are seeing our exports declining. So what few measures have been taken to boost up foreign trade? So let's identify and understand them. So GST has cleared few measures to boost the foreign trade. That includes enabling tax credits for the service exporters who are receiving the payments in rupees. Then that is critical for the trade with the countries like Iran and Russia that face global sanctions. Then the government, it has been pushing for the rupee-based trading arrangements, or when we talk about de-dollarization and increasing the usage of Indian rupee when it comes to trade payments in several countries to reduce the dependence on the US dollar, and banks from over 20 nations have opened the special rupee washroom accounts with the Indian banks. So यहाँ पे how does this washroom accounts they function? That is important for us to understand. Many exporters of such services, they were being denied the input tax credit under the GST regime as the norms they required foreign currency receipts to recognize the export status. So herein GST Council ने जो recommend किया है, that is to issue a circular to clarify admissibility of the export remittances which are received in special INR washroom account as permitted by RBI for the purpose of consideration the supply of services to qualify as export of services under the IGST. Then relief for SEZ suppliers is that Council also decided to undo the effects of 31st July notification that had made it difficult for the firms who are supplying goods and services to special economic zones to claim the tax refunds. So यहाँ पे भी कुछ again changes and amendments किए गए हैं, that would be in favor of the firms operating in the SEZ zone, so that they can avail the benefit under the input tax credit and they can enjoy the benefits of tax refunds, which would again, be motivating them to further take certain efforts in order to ensure that the trade or the exports increase. So prey base and the habitat diktat of the Asiatic wild dog tiger coexistence. So let's see that what important findings. So in this picture, you can see that's how the Asiatic wild dog tiger looks like. So the study revealed that the diurnal activity here of the dholes, they had the highest temporal overlap with leopards. So overlapping the prey availability, या बोलोगे उसको habitat suitability, it could dictate positive association between dholes, so इनको हम dholes भी बोलते हैं, and the tigers, facilitating their coexistence and even cooperative behaviors between the two species of carnivores. So dhole या Asiatic wild dog, this is only endangered wild pack living canid in the tropical Indian rainforest, and this is considered to be at the higher risk of extinction. So fragmented population operating in packs of 5 to 10, जो इनके larger groups हैं, they can be more than 30. They were observed in 2004. So dholes, they were once widespread and they were present across southern and eastern Asia. But the current situation is kind of like very concerning. So factors such as habitat loss is responsible for the decline. Then at the same time, declining prey availability, persecution, and diseases, interspecific competition. So these are some of the reasons which has led to the ongoing fragmentation of these populations and decline in their numbers. So their IUCN status is endangered as of now, but at the same time, they are at high risk of extinction. So we see that Biden has ordered US ships, warplanes to move closer to Israel and sends munitions. So right now it's very clear USA is playing an important role, which is important for Israel in terms of the support, in terms of the defense support that USA has extended to Israel. But when we talk it at the overall level, definitely this is not what US should have done initially, or that's how didn't have to play its role in terms of defense export. It could have taken efforts and measures in order to ensure peace, but it has chosen the defense supports to Israel. So this is going to further fuel up the situation. And there is a high possibility of the war escalating further. So already we have been seeing कि Russia-Ukraine war की वजह से how basically different challenges have been there, specifically economic challenges for different countries who are not even participant to this war. And despite that, despite those lessons, we are right now again seeing कि इस war को भी और ज़्यादा support किया जा रहा है in terms of कैसे यहाँ पे भी कुछ जो countries उनके vested interest, definitely USA के vested interest है in terms of the finances that will be getting, or as an boost जो उनकी economy को मिल सकता है because of the arms and ammunitions that they would be selling and supplying and providing to Israel. So these are some, say, narrow and short-term interest, but over and long-term interest, despite the Russia-Ukraine war and witnessing the fallouts of that, still the trajectory remains the same. And we can say the mindset and the behavior and the policies, we're not seeing any kind of major change in that. And one more thing which is again associated with this topic is that from Afghanistan, we saw that after the US's withdrawal, China's presence has been increasing. And it is being said that USA influence has been reduced in Western Asia, or to be specific, when I choose the right words to quote this thing is that USA's stance has been that they have deprioritized this area and they're more focusing upon areas like Indo-Pacific. So with that also, it might be again that USA is again trying to increase its presence or, send that message to different countries who think USA influence in this region has been reducing. Yeah, USA has been unsuccessful in this region in terms of what were the objectives, be it in Afghanistan or current war ke through, current actions ke through, USA might be again sending that message ki USA, again, it is not neglecting this region. And that can be one thing as well. And USA has always supported Israel. So USA, what it wanted was कि Saudi Arabia and Israel के बीच में जो relationship है and वो और strengthen की जानी चाहिए. But that's how things didn't went. Although हुआ क्या कि Saudi Arabia and Iran, उनकी जो diplomatic ties थे, they were restored through a deal that was brokered by China. So even USA, this is not in favor of US because USA does not support Iran. So again, rising frequencies of earthquakes. So the death toll rises to 2,000 as rescuers. They search the flattened Afghan villages. So an earthquake has been witnessed in Afghanistan. So toll from a series of earthquakes in the western Afghanistan rose sharply to more than 2,000 with nearly 10,000 people being injured. So it was of 6.3 magnitude, followed by 8 strong aftershocks. So that jolted the hard to reach areas 30 kilometers northwest of the provincial capital of Herat. So again, this zone lies in high seismic area, which is more susceptible to earthquakes. So disaster preparedness is very important, specifically when we talk about earthquakes and the regions that are highly susceptible to earthquakes, which lie in high seismic zone. So even the buildings needs to be constructed in such a manner that earthquake, it does not, even specifically the high magnitude earthquakes do not have damaging impact on the buildings. Coming to Financial Express newspaper. So even there could be definitely trade impact out of the Israel conflict, but major impact is going to be the recently announced Western Asia Economic Corridor. How we can ensure कि जो public internet availability है, जो ये services available है publicly, इसका illegal misuse हम कैसे रोक सकते हैं? So telcos, they have been asked to ensure traceable Wi-Fi user IDs. So if that be traceable, so we'll be able to again crack down on the people who've been misusing the public internet. So Department of Telecommunication, उनकी recommendations रही है to the telecom companies and the ISPs to use PM Vani hotspot stack with their internet connections. And individual identities or the IP of the people जो Wi-Fi को use करते हैं, the hotspots, right now that is untraceable. So personal broadband connections, they are being used for the commercial purposes and could give a boost to even PM Vani, which is deployed 15,000 public Wi-Fi hotspots. So PM Vani scheme, the important features हमें पता होना important है. So oil prices, again, possible impact. Specifically, this is going to be a major concern. So this we've already discussed today. So debt mutual funds are not worried about the open market operations twist that we saw was as a part of the recent announcement of the Monetary Policy Committee. So much will depend upon the quantum of open market operation sales रहेंगी as well as how the US bond yields they are going to respond. So clarity is awaited. RBI's move may add pressure on the debt mutual funds, which have been struggling thanks to the high interest rates and the removal of indexation benefit in the month of March. So that is basically has been anti performance of the debt mutual funds because the high interest rates and removal of जो एक indexation of inflation का एक जो benefit था that has been removed. So people's interest have been lost in the debt mutual funds because of these changes. अगर हम yield की बात करें on the 10-year government securities, it could now find 7 to 2.5% as 7.5% तक की range में you can get the interest and return on the government securities from the earlier 7.1 to 7.2.5 earlier interest rate. So इसकी वजह से definitely people would be shifting more towards the government securities, the government bonds, because definitely they consider government bonds to be comparatively safer because they are backed by the government. So failure of default, they're very, very less or almost negligible. Plus interest rates be increased over, so people would be again shifting to these. So again, this is going to add a pressure on the debt mutual funds. So banks profitability, it may come under pressure. So that's very important term when we talk about bank की income हम कैसे calculate करते हैं. तो the one phrase is the net interest margins of the banks. So this is the term net interest margin. So basically दो type के interest rate work कर रहे हैं when we talk about the functioning of the banks. So banks जो loan देते हैं उसके ऊपर they earn certain amount of interest rate, वो bank की income हो गई या bank का आप बोल सकते हो कि revenue हो गया. Plus जो as a consumer, we deposit our money in the banks in different form of like in current account or in savings account. So we get some return or in the form of again interest. तो bank के जो revenue से जो interest से जो पैसा बैंक अर्न करता है उसी अमाउंट में से बैंक को कुछ इंटरेस्ट डिपॉजिटर्स को देना पड़ता है. सो जो गैप बच गया बिटवीन दीज टू इंटरेस्ट रेट वो होती है बैंक की नेट इंटरेस्ट मार्जिन एंड दैट इज बेसिकली द नेट इनकम ऑफ द बैंक और यू कैन से द नेट प्रॉफिट. सो हेरिन जो हमारा कंसर्न है कि जो बैंक्स की प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी है इट मे कम अंडर प्रेशर. सो इट्स इंपॉर्टेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट आर द रीजंस बिहाइंड दैट. सो वी सी कि the gap between the bank loans and the deposits that is expected to narrow in the time period of July to September due to benign base withdrawal of rupees 2000 currency notes and improved real rate of return. So because of these three factors, जो gap है between the bank loans and the deposits वो और narrow हो सकता है. So difference between the credit and the deposit growth that has moderated further to 2.3%. So अगर ये gap जितना ज्यादा होगा उतना बैंक्स के लिए प्रॉफिटेबल रहेगा. अगर सपोज बैंक्स लोन ज्यादा दे रहे हैं कंपैरेटिवली टू द डिपॉजिट दे आर गेटिंग तो वो बैंक्स के लिए ज्यादा फेवरेबल रहता है. बट राइट नाउ वी आर सीइंग कि दिस गैप इज आल्सो नैरोइंग डाउन. So while we expect कि deposit mobilization जो है ये it can pick up significantly towards the end of the quarter, so overall accretion it would still be important to monitor as we are having different banks alone they're going to account for a significant deposit market share. So HDFC Bank जो है it alone it enjoys a large share of market deposits. And apart from this, again, the demand for money है वो भी increase होगी because of the festival season. So these are some of the factors. Coming to Indian Express newspaper now. So explain page where we are having the food inflation limited to dal roti by government policy may need the changes. So herein एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट एरिया व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट इन्फ्लेशन. सो सबसे पहले हमें ये पता होना इंपॉर्टेंट है इन्फ्लेशन के पीछे रीजन क्या है. इज इट बिकॉज ऑफ द डिमांड पुल और द कॉस्ट पुश इन्फ्लेशन. सो इफ इट इज देयर बिकॉज ऑफ द डिमांड साइड फैक्टर्स, सो इन्फ्लेशन के ऊपर कितना ज्यादा इम्पैक्ट रेपो रेट चेंज करने की वजह से होगा, तो वो लिंकेज पता होना हमें इम्पॉर्टेंट है. एंड दिस इज जनरली कंसर्न, even believed कि जो इकोनॉमिस्ट है, दे ऑल्सो बिलीव कि मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी डायरेक्ट अटैक नहीं करती है, या इट इज नॉट सो फेवरेबल व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट इन्फ्लेशन बिकॉज ऑफ द सप्लाई साइड फैक्टर्स. सो अगर इन्फ्लेशन राइट नाउ वी आर सीइंग दैट इट इज हैपनिंग बिकॉज ऑफ द सप्लाई चेन मिसमैनेजमेंट, या if it is because of the less supply in the economy, or if it is because of the demand supply mismatch, so repo rate changes are not so impactful, so effective in terms of controlling the inflation down. So that's there. And right now we are definitely seeing food inflation. Vegetable oils, maybe we are seeing it. We're seeing cereal inflation. In milk prices, we are seeing it going up. Dal, roti inflation, pulses, maybe we are seeing inflation spiking up. So it's important for us to focus upon more in terms of the agriculture sector in at the supply side, when we talk about what benefits can be provided to the farmers so as to ensure the cultivation of such crops, specifically the basic food grains, that is not impacted, and can we also go for imports or not. And other जो short term measures government ने लिए हैं, that has been banning the exports of the food grains, where we are seeing high inflation right now. And with that, let's see कि कैसे चीजें चेंज होंगी, स्पेसिफिकली जब हम स्पेसिफिकली फूड इन्फ्लेशन की बात कर रहे हैं. And apart from this, we are seeing कि जो India की core inflation है, that lies in a comfortable territory. So even this was one of the main reasons why this time we saw, this was the reason cited by the RBI's MPC, why the repo rate was not hiked, or why we maintain the status quo. And as far as the stance of RBI's MPC is concerned, this time we're seeing withdrawal of the accommodative stance. So accommodative stance का implication is our focus is more on growth. So agar growth zyada hogi, so that it might lead to fueling up of the inflation. And right now just stance hai, it is changing towards withdrawal of the accommodative stance, and we are moving towards hawkish stance. Hawkish stance ka implication is focus is more upon controlling the inflation. So basically there is a dilemma between choosing inflation targeting versus the growth. So right now, since inflation is one of the major concerns, so the stance is changing towards the hawkish stance of monetary policy. So as we started with today's analysis video, the Yom Kippur War, which happened 50 years ago, you can just quickly go through it. This is a factual thing. And then India-Israel ties becomes an important topic for us as far as international relations is concerned. So while India, it was one of the last non-Muslim states to recognize Israel, it became the first non-Arab state to recognize Palestine Liberation Organization at the same time. However, जो हमारा balance of ties है, that shifted in 1990s. So in the years post independence, अगर हम बात करें तो India को जो political attitude था towards Israel, it was set quite firmly shortly after the independence, after 1947, when we saw our then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru and Mahatma Gandhi, they vote to support the Palestinian cause as they rejected the idea of two nations on the basis of religion. So this was a clear stand of India post-independence. India's position with regard to Palestine, it was also guided by the general consensus in the Arab world, the non-aligned movement, and the United Nations. So partition of Palestine plan jo tha, it was put to vote at the United Nations. India voted against it along with the Arab countries. So that's how her stance has been maintained post-independence. Then when we talk about 1980s under the prime ministership of Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi, so we saw thumping majority. So we saw ki Indira Gandhi continued her support to the Palestinian struggle. So Rajiv Gandhi continued with India's approach towards Palestine. So from the very beginning, we can say that we have been stood in support of Palestine. We have stood against division or the partition of countries on the basis of religion. And definitely we can say कि ये जो हमारा stand है that is influenced with the repercussions and the fallouts that we saw after the partition of India, and that was again on the basis of religion. So this is what our stance has been, and throughout the outbreak of Palestinian Intifada, which is the uprising in December 1987 in the Gaza and the West Bank due to the iron fist policies of Israel, India maintained its steadfast support. So the ground shifts in when we saw कि जो हमारी right now current policy, current stand है, there were critiques of the New Delhi's Palestine policy and its outright support to the Arab world within India. So Arab countries' neutral position during the 1962 India-China war की अगर हम बात करें, and their support to Pakistan during 1965 and 71 wars did not go down well with many, including the BJP. So here definitely जब हम बात करते कि Arab world का क्या stance था जब India was at war with China or Pakistan, so they were not there in support of India. But despite that, we saw that India has been in support of Palestine. So things changed in West when we talk about Iraq invaded Kuwait in 1990. So PLO lost its political leverage on account of its support to Saddam Hussein. So at that point of time, the Soviet Union tha, even that disintegrated, and this prompted India to make drastic changes in the policy towards West Asia. So from 1990 again, we saw a major change in our policy, in our stance. So we established full diplomatic relations with Israel in 1992. Days after Chinese, they established their diplomatic relations with Tel Aviv. Then after the end of the Cold War, that weakened the non-aligned movement and reduced the ideological hostility towards Israel. So these were few gradual changes that were witnessed post 1990s, because we saw that PLO, it came into the support of Saddam Hussein. So obviously that was something that India never supported any kind of terrorist activity back then and even today. And then during 1992, there were even like meetings at the prime ministerial levels that were organized. We saw establishment of diplomatic relationship with Israel. Then after the bilateral conversation, we saw there was exchange of ambassadors and recognition of Israel. These are some kind of acts of sovereignty in which, again, definitely India didn't prefer to interfere. And when we talk about now the military ties in the Kargil war, so how these are linked. So establishing of the full diplomatic ties with Israel came in especially handy during the Kargil conflict in 1999. So we saw that during Kargil war, Israel supported India. So Indian Air Force desperately needed precision target bombs, as जो Pakistani intruders they were hiding in caves and bunkers. So the IEF, they reached out to Israel counterparts who wasted no time. So definitely this is one important support provided by Israel to India during the Kargil war. And of late, we also saw during 2015 and 2017 the de-hyphenation of the ties that we all used to associate. If we are visiting Palestine, then it is important to visit Israel also. So the de-hyphenation of ties has been witnessed since 2017. And independent visits have been made to Palestine and Israel separately by Indian prime ministers and Indian representatives. So in the last decade or so, ties they have deepened in terms of security, defense, and connectivity with Israel. So even in terms of technological relationship and trade of different technologies and services are definitely Israel is one of the important partners. So Israel is known for its technological advancements, and with even with other partners, the ties have deepened, specifically which are located in Western Asia in terms of security, defense, and connectivity, which includes Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Qatar, and Iran. So India का जो strategic approach है to engage with all the sides in this complex West Asian region, it is born out of necessity. Because 90 lakh strong Indian communities present in the region, connectivity to West Asia is very important, and that too, connectivity to Europe via West Western Asia. That is also very important for India. So crucially, we see more than 50% of जो India की energy imports हैं, they are sourced from West Asia. So until we are dependent upon the crude oil imports, it is important that our ties remain stronger. They remain sustainable. They remain smooth with the different West Asian powers. जब तक India self-sufficient नहीं हो जाता in terms of energy, or until we become an energy secure country. So these topics have already been taken up. Not going to repeat them. So let's just look for some new topics if we're able to find some newer ones. So India is an emerging global food hub. Role of sustainable crop protection solutions. So what are the different methods and technology that we're focusing upon is very important. Different states which have been again performing well in terms of the agricultural sector growth. That can be important for again the pan-India level. Innovations for the new age farmers are going to play a critical role. Role of agrochemicals in the growth of Indian agriculture. Women driving the growth of Indian agriculture, which was again an idea which was promoted by MS Swaminathan. And definitely how industry can collaborate, how we can take forward the idea of contract farming. These are going to play important role when we talk about creating a nutritious and ensuring food secure India. So we can definitely take away some lessons from the state of Rajasthan as far as the administrative reforms and service delivery is concerned. So we see key all documents in the secretariats and subordinate offices, and they have been converted into e-file system. So e-governance has been implemented at massive scale across Rajasthan. Apart from this, we see G2C, that is government to citizen, and business to citizen services. They have been provided through strong network of 80,000 plus e-Mitra kiosks in the entire state. So again, this is a move towards efficient service delivery to different beneficiaries. Then there are DBT schemes which are running in the state, self-approval in 6 schemes. So fast approval, transparent property tax assessment and collection is very important. So even there, the state of Rajasthan has progressed. Solutions like property tax information management system, these have been announced. GIS mapping has been taken advantage of. So benefits of the farmers under various schemes as well as organized with the Raj Kisan Sathi Yojana. So Jan Suchana portal in terms of information transparency and the updates. Apart from this, art digital infrastructure. So human and physical infrastructure की हम बात करें, so that has been strengthened in Rajasthan to implement the law and order in the state. Then cybercrime police stations have been opened up, and special women police stations have been opened up. Apart from that, integrated GPS and CCTV based security solutions have been implemented in their functioning. And average time for the investigation in the cases of sexual harassments, that has been reduced to 58 days from 274 days. So that is one of the major achievements. So the average investigation time, POXO cases made, has been reduced to 59 days. So it's important कि क्या steps लिए हैं in order to reduce this time. Special investigation units create किए गए हैं again for the crimes against women. Nirbhaya squads have been functioning effectively. Women police patrolling units have been created in different districts. Mahila Shakti Atmarakshak Kendra self-defense centers have been started to create awareness to provide training to women. And revenue front की अगर हम बात करें तो restructuring of the revenue units has been done from village to the divisional level to achieve efficiency. So identifying the problem, monitoring them, and then coming up with the solutions and implementing them has been the step and the manner that is being followed. Then Dhara mobile app has been developed for convenience of the farmers and the public. So these are again minor level targeting, identification of the problems and coming up with the solutions. has been the more general approach that has been followed by the state of Rajasthan, and which has definitely delivered the desirable results at the same time. So we can take up this topic as a form of essay topic. So only the dead have seen the end of the war. So you can interpret it in multiple ways and write up an essay on this topic. Rise of services, so domestic services or jo exports and services, they are fast evolving. They're moving up the value chain, crossing over into even the manufacturing sector. So how services are playing an important role even in terms of furthering the growth of the Indian manufacturing sector. So that's important to understand that link at the same time. So definitely in today's globalized and interconnected world, seeing and visualizing economic growth in silos in three different sectors, as we classify them as agriculture, manufacturing, and services, is not relevant anymore. So, by enabling small manufacturers to gain the advantages larger ones benefit from, they are incentivized to expand. Then, indeed, we are already finding evidence of the new domestic services sector companies, like suppose transport services, procurement support, e-commerce sectors expanding. So, different multiple services sectors are even cropping up and they are budding, making forays into the manufacturing. So, ये important क्यों है? So, जब हम इंडिया के job problem की बात करते हैं, sluggish है, वहाँ पे growth is sluggish, and medium tech manufacturing sector maybe the growth is sluggish. So it is important for the job creation. Too many manufacturing firms, they remain too small for too long. So it's important just smaller manufacturing units that they need to grow in terms of their scale and size. So they never enjoy these benefits of economies of scale and they do not create enough jobs. So what India needs is a slew of reforms which remove many of these impediments the manufacturers are facing. So when we talk about ki jo smaller manufacturing units hai, how we can ensure ki their size increases. So when they become a part of the supply chain, even global supply chain. So obviously initially first they will be expanding at the national level. So जब वो national supply chain का एक part बन जाएंगे, integrated part बन जाएंगे, so definitely their size is also going to increase. So India can now even boast the world's largest share in global capability centers. So global capability centers actually हैं क्या? So these have traditionally provided technology and IT support to their parent MNC companies, but they have gradually moved up the ladder to higher value-added services like legal, audit, design, and R&D. So India में basically इनका जो India का जो share है that is increased in GCCs. So they're operating basically from India. And when looking through India's service export data, it is no surprise that even though जो professional and consulting service exports, and they're still just a quarter of the IT services exports. So manufacturing sector में, we can basically use digital infrastructure to solve many of the problems with the small manufacturers. So how digitization, digital infrastructure, the technology can help in solving the problems. Startups जो हैं, they could help these small firms gain access to the formal credit. So even how, basically interlinkage is very important even between startups and the emerging manufacturing units. Formal credit access provide करने में startups help कर सकती हैं, cheaper raw materials में, bigger final markets, better warehousing and logistics, and enhanced quality checks. So that's how startups can also, grow further in such a collaborative approach with the smaller manufacturing units. So policy action becomes very important. So joint planning and combat power, it is essential for our future. So when we talk about the defense security, the joint planning and combat power, they're going to play an important role. So as we're celebrating the Indian Air Force Day, so the two important points highlighted to compare the power. It will be essential for the future wars and developing the unique tactics, carrying out realistic training, and incorporating relevant lessons learned. So, as I was just talking about the lessons that we learned from the Russia-Ukraine war, then we're not seeing implementing and learning from those lessons being implemented when even we talk about the Israel-Palestine conflict. So specifically India के लिए जब हम बात करते हैं तो definitely from the own perspective of India's interest, it's important for us to understand the lessons, to understand कि how the form and nature of wars is changing. We're seeing how technology is present in every area today, how that can basically pose a major challenge, risk to our safety. So that's how even war is changing. Even when we talk about the space war, so possibility of a space war is also important for us to understand and be prepared for that. So that's all for the day. Thank you so much for joining us in today's analysis session. I hope the topics that we took up are clear to all of you. If you have any doubts, you can leave that in the comment section. And stay tuned for daily updates for daily news analysis videos.